Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Historical Humans Reacts. And today we have a very, very interesting one where railway workers managed to uncover and discover stone-paved cellars from the Stone Age, which is very, very interesting and something that I know we've talked about a little on our channel here, where a lot of modern archaeology and a lot of discoveries actually happen inadvertently from construction, to the bane of most contractors, but to the joy and jubilation of a lot of researchers, because railway workers were installing new line of railroad when they came across the stone flooring, and thankfully someone along the line was very honest and true and reported this so archaeologists could actually dig into and look and research it.
Yep. Now, the cellar in question is located in Denmark on an archaeological site on the island of Falster, whose name I will never attempt to pronounce.
Yeah,
Uh,
Nyagarsivaj 3.
yeah, yeah.
um,
Which implies that there's two more places with that name as an archaeological site, and that terrifies me.
but the cool thing here is we see a middle Neolithic site, so middle Stone Age, which is associated with the funnel beaker culture, which has to be one of the best Stone Age names you could come up with. But it shows different house phases, so different areas in which the house was occupied. They had this recessed area which had been paved using different sized pebbles, and it clearly showed that it was human made of origin and was belonging to one of the houses. And
Yeah.
as such, they kind of really word this out. So we're actually looking at the specific scientific article that was published in Radiocarbon. Usually we use news articles just because they have good pictures and a little bit easier to digest information. But this one has the gold mine of data, so we're going to get a little more analytical here.
Yeah, and basically what this is going to amount to at various points is that there was an incredibly sophisticated understanding of both housing construction and food storage by the Middle Neolithic people living up here, to the point that they are creating small paved basements to store food in the ground, to the point where they're using posts to keep the roofs over their head and having a little bit more space in their, not cave dwellings.
And this is a really interesting time because in the Middle Lithic is when we start seeing the megalithic stone structures. We start seeing the construction of Newgrange in Ireland. You see Stonehenge being erected in the Salisbury Plain. You start seeing these larger constructions, these dolmens being erected by this group. And around the same time, you start seeing more permanent housing settlements, which is this is one of. And this site, the floor is the most important and probably the most like clickbaity title we could you could find. But in reality, they found over 141 post holes indicating an elevated structure or some sort of perimeter fencing, which 35 of those post holes are roof bearing posts, but they're 11 and a half meters wide. In the house is 11 and a half meters wide and 4.2 meters um, oh my god, I got that completely backwards. 11 and a half long, 4.2 wide. Measurements are hard.
Yeah,
Math is hard,
This is why I
guys.
dig.
it's it's basically this big oval that the roof literally can't support itself if you were to just use walls. So there are all these posts here to keep it upright. And that is a level of construction knowledge 5,000 years ago that, you just don't necessarily expect to have. And it's just proof that, no, we figured out, as human beings, we figured out how to live in house a lot more early on than people tend to give us credit for. People like to think, oh, that's cavemen time, and
Well,
it's not.
and I think we
Oh, this is
also
proper Fred Flintstone-ish right here.
Yeah,
we do
It's out
tend
of bedrock.
there's just no dinosaurs. But we do tend to have this recency bias as well, where we tend to think a lot of technologies or a lot of thoughts are a lot newer
Yeah,
than they actually are. This just helps push that envelope to show, like, hey, these Stone Age people, while we may not have huge things to remember them by, I mean, you got the megalithic structures, but before then, you don't. You kind of have to realize at some point they learn these skills, they learn these techniques, and this is one indication to show us, before you start running, you have to learn how to walk. Before you walk, you crawl. So the building processes they had to learn, and to show in a house also shows a delineation and dissemination of this information, which is where anthropologists specifically are very fascinated by it, because information has to be, you have independent invention, but you have information that gets disseminated, and you're able to see how these cultures and technologies disseminate based off of building styles, like
yeah,
these ovular shapes.
yeah. And like one of the key things with this is the fact that it's being used in homes, and that kind of indicates that this is general knowledge among the populace. This isn't like what you see with ancient Egypt, where the architects and the architecture of the megalithic structures of the monuments is hoarded by a set group of people for a specific ritual purpose. No, the architecture is spread out. The same principles you see in the Stonehenge, you see in these houses of the people who are building things like the Stonehenge.
You just tend to see this dissemination, and the fact that you're seeing it in houses just really indicates that it's something that the average layperson could do, or could acquire enough people to do, because the megalithic structures took hundreds if not thousands of people dozens of years to construct.
Yeah.
These, you don't spend 30 years building a house, you put a house up fairly quickly.
Yeah, the Neolithic know-how.
Neolithic know-how. And then in one of the images, they show what this floor looks like, and you can pretty clearly delineate that there's a wall-like feature that probably housed the boards, but
Yeah,
it's
like
cool.
the 90-degree angle that just suddenly appears in the line of stones.
God, I feel like I'm on Twitter all over again. It's the 90-degree angles. How could they do 90-degree angles?
Impossible.
But they found a lot of flint tools, davitage, which is just, it basically is French for garbage, but it's like all the remnants from this flint knapping, so pottery. You have fire cracked flint, which either fell into the fire or they were using it to heat treat their tools. Burnt bone fragments, and one piece of modern clinker, which I don't know what modern clinker is, but they also showed two petrified sea urchins, which I don't know if those are so much fossils or a part of the site.
So the clinker stuff,
Yeah,
that's you know how if you have a charcoal grill and you put the coals in,
yeah.
clinkers are the coals. So someone had a barbecue or a campsite around here, and that got filtered into the dirt and into the site.
It doesn't have to be necessarily that. It could be natural wildfire intrusion as well. Because you
Yeah.
do tend to see that, and that's part of what can make radiocarbon dating a little more nuanced and issues. Is you could have a modern piece of charcoal find its way into a
Yeah.
historic site and throw all the dates off.
Yeah, but that like modern clinker would be like, your grilling coals from the present day. It's
Yeah.
it's that stuff. It's a charcoal grill fuel.
But it's kind of cool because housing sites like this really do show a lot of what you have and a lot of your day to day life. Because, in your house is where you do most of your work, most of your living. I mean, the fact that they found stone tools and davitage, you're sitting there fixing your tools, you're resharpening your blades, you're making new tools so you can go out and go hunt.
Yeah.
You have
Ungo was not certain at first about becoming megalithic builder, but house have good square footage and finished basements.
it did. It had a finished
Even
basement.
insult personal man cave.
Man move out of cave, but man still want cave. Man cave included in house.
Duality of man.
We joke, but this is genuinely true. This is like a this is what would probably happened, and in reality, the paved floor probably was more of storage, probably more of like a root cellar.
Oh yeah, it is 100% a food pit.
But I like the idea of having a man cave under the house.
Now Unga can keep up with the Flintstones.
uh, I think that's a great point for us to wrap up on this one. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.